Hey everyone, have you ever stopped to think about how much of our world, the world we live in right now, was actually designed 2,000 years ago? Well, today, we're digging into the incredible legacy of the Roman Empire. We're going to see how their ideas on engineering, on law, and even language literally built the foundation for our modern lives. So, let's dive in.
Right, it's the classic question. And the answer is, well, kind of everything. I mean, it's in the roads under our tires, it's in the legal contracts we sign, it's even in the words coming out of my mouth right now. The Roman influence isn't just something you find in a dusty museum. It's all around us, kind of silently running the operating system of our civilization.
So, let's kick things off with the most obvious, the most tangible legacy they left behind, their absolutely mind-blowing engineering. These guys weren't just conquerors. They were master builders on a scale the world had never seen before.
400,000 kilometers. Just let that number sink in for a second. At its height, that's how far the Roman road network stretched. And we're not talking about simple dirt tracks. These were high-tech highways, built so their armies could move incredibly fast. But they ended up doing so much more. They became the arteries of the empire, pumping trade, communication, and Roman culture to every corner of the known world. It was basically the internet of the ancient world.
So how on earth are some of these roads still around today? Well, the secret is in how they built them. It was this meticulous, layered process. They dig down, create a solid foundation, add layers of crushed rock and mortar, and then pave it with these perfectly fitted stones. And here's the really clever bit. They crowned the surface, making it slightly curved so rainwater would just drain right off. Genius. And that knack for building brings us to their most revolutionary invention. See, while the Greeks were perfecting these beautiful temples out of stone and marble, the Romans mastered concrete. And this was a complete game changer. Suddenly, they had a material that was cheaper, more flexible, and allowed them to build bigger and faster than anyone had ever dreamed. Structures like the Colosseum, impossible without concrete.
And oh, it did not stop with roads and concrete, not by a long shot. They built incredible aqueducts that snaked for miles to bring fresh water into cities, which was a huge deal for public health. Their arched bridges were so well designed, many are still standing strong after 2 millennia. And they engineered massive sewer systems and, of course, amphitheaters big enough to hold tens of thousands of cheering fans. We're talking about infrastructure on a truly epic scale.
Okay, so we've looked at the physical stuff that held the empire together. But now let's shift to the invisible structures, the ideas that organize their entire society. I'm talking about their incredibly sophisticated system of law and government. At the very heart of their legal thinking was this concept, the jus civile, or civil law. The easiest way to think about it is as the rule book for Roman citizens. It laid out all the rights and responsibilities that came with being a citizen. It was this formal idea that your status in society came with a distinct legal identity, a concept that has echoed through pretty much every legal system since.
Now, this phrase here, pacta sunt servanda, it might sound fancy, but the idea is super simple. Agreements must be kept. This is the absolute bedrock of all modern contract law. Seriously, every time you sign a rental agreement, or even just click I agree on a website, you're living by a legal principle the Romans perfected 2,000 years ago.
So, you might be wondering, how did all this legal knowledge survive the collapse of the empire? Well, we can largely thank this massive undertaking, the Justinian Code. The Emperor Justinian had his scholars gather and organize centuries of Roman laws into one collection. It became this incredible legal time capsule, preserving all that Roman genius so that later civilizations could rediscover it and build upon it.
Of course, Roman society itself was, very structured. You had the patricians at the very top, the old, powerful, aristocratic families. Right below them were the equestrians, a sort of wealthy business class. The vast majority of people were plebeians, your average citizens, the artisans, farmers, and shopkeepers. And supporting the whole system was the labor of enslaved people. It was this really complex, rigid social machine.
And when you look at their government, you start to see some very familiar shapes, don't you? The whole idea of a Senate, a group of elected representatives who debate and create laws, well, that's a direct download from Rome. Their entire system of assemblies and elected officials laid down an early blueprint for the representative democracies so many of us live in today.
All right, let's switch gears. We've talked about the rules that govern us. Now let's talk about something even more fundamental, the very words we use. Because the influence of Latin is, well, it's everywhere. You know, a lot of people think of Latin as a dead language, but it never really died. It just evolved.
The everyday, common Latin that was spoken by soldiers and merchants all across the empire slowly morphed into the Romance languages we know today, which are spoken by, almost 1 billion people? Not so dead after all.
But here is where things get really wild, especially for English speakers. English is a Germanic language at its core, but just look at that. An incredible 60% of English words have Latin roots, more than half. A lot of it came to us through French after the Norman conquest, and it's where we get most of our sophisticated vocabulary for science, law, and philosophy.
And in those specialized fields, Latin is still very much the main event. It's the official language for naming every single species in biology, it's all over legal documents, it's baked into university degrees and mottos. When you need formal, precise language, you still turn to Latin.
So we've hit the big ones: infrastructure, law, language. But what about the smaller things? Let's take a look at how Roman culture wormed its way into our daily routines in ways you might not even realize.
Get this, the Romans basically invented fast food. No, I'm serious. Their cities were crowded and a lot of people lived in apartments that didn't have kitchens. So what do? You pop down to a thermopolium, which was basically a stall on the street serving hot, ready-to-eat food and wine. The world's first takeaway joints. Turns out the need for food on the go is not a modern problem at all.
And their cultural fingerprint is just all over the place. In art, they were masters of these incredibly realistic portrait sculptures. In literature, they gave us epics like the Aeneid. They were huge fans of Stoic philosophy, this idea of using reason and virtue to live a good life, which is actually having a huge comeback today. They've even came up with ideas like advertising and putting trademarks on their pottery.
This quote really just nails it. It wasn't one single thing that made the Romans so influential. It was this powerful combination: their knack for practical innovation, their obsession with law and order, and their ability to absorb the best ideas from all the different cultures they encountered. That mix proved to be unbelievably enduring.
So, as we've seen, this stuff isn't just ancient history. The Roman blueprint is still active. It's running in the background, it's in the logic of our legal system, the grammar of our sentences, and even in the infrastructure connecting our cities. The empire itself is long gone, but its ideas, they're alive and well.
The Romans left a legacy so powerful it's literally written in stone and in law, a blueprint that has lasted 2,000 years. And it really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? 2,000 years from now, when people look back at our civilization, what blueprint will they say we left for them? Something to chew on. Thanks for joining me.